Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Cadet Second Class Dustin Mock. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our Air Force Company Grade Officer Panel. I'll now introduce our panelists and cadet moderator. Please hold your applause until all personnel are introduced. Captain Greg Liquori is an F-15E Strike Eagle flight lead pilot from the 335th Fighter Squadron at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, North Carolina. Liquori was born into a three-generation Air Force family and grew up in various places around the country. As an avid snowboarder, outdoorsman, and ice hockey player, Liquori calls Colorado home, where he graduated from Cheyenne Mountain High School in 2014. He earned his commission as a distinguished graduate of the Air Force ROTC program at the University of Colorado in 2018. 2 years later, Liquori graduated from Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training with an assignment to the F-15E. Liquori has completed 2 deployments to the U.S. Central Command Area of Responsibility and has logged over 950 flight hours and 513 combat hours. He is completing his instructor qualification in the F-15E and serves as his squadron's chief of mobility. Captain Noel Takeout Zamot is a lead weapons systems officer assigned to the 335th Fighter Squadron, Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, North Carolina. After graduating from the U.S. Air Force Academy in 2018, he graduated undergraduate combat systems officer training at Naval Air Station Pensacola and was selected to fly the F-15E Strike Eagle. In 2024, Zamot deployed to an undisclosed location in the U.S. Central Command in support of Operation Inherent Resolve. During that time, he flew 48 combat sorties and destroyed 4 enemy unmanned aerial vehicles. First Lieutenant Gabrielle Sutedjo graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy in 2021. She is currently an intelligence analyst for the 4th Fighter Wing at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, North Carolina, where she supports 4 F-15E Strike Eagle squadrons. As an analyst, Sutedjo provides wing and squadron leadership with the latest top-secret geopolitical reporting, as well as adversary tactics and threat developments around the world, specifically regarding emerging technological advancements and great power competition. Most recently, she served as the chief of the Combat Intelligence Cell during a deployment to the Middle East, where her team provided real-time and near-real-time threat updates for more than 6,000 theater personnel. Her team provided threat reaction recommendations to wing and squadron leadership, enabling base personnel to plan and conduct operations in a contested environment under a persistent theater ballistic missile threat, as seen during the April 13th Iranian attacks against Israel and again on October 1st. Additionally, she worked for F-15E air crews to plan and execute defensive operations over Jordanian, Syrian, and Iraqi airspaces. Her team enabled the successful engagement of more than 80 adversary one-way attack drones, safeguarding Israel from attack and likely preventing a larger regional war between Israel and Iran. And finally, our moderator, Cadet Second Class Tatiana Ellison.
Good morning. I just have a couple questions for you guys today, and I'm going to start off with, could you each please share a little bit about your backgrounds and what led you to be sitting here with us today?
All right, I'll go first. You just heard in my bio, I'm a Colorado guy by nature, Air Force brat, moved around my whole life, but primarily living in Colorado. Went to Metro State University where I got my degree in aviation and aerospace science, which for any of you Academy guys, I describe as aerospace engineering for less smart people. So that's where I got my degree, and then did ROTC at CU Boulder, crosstown there, commissioned in 2018. One of the biggest things I think that contributed to me sitting here today was I was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship through that ROTC program to get a private pilot's license in honor of Captain Will Pyro Du Bois, who was an alumni of the University of Colorado. That was unfortunately killed in a combat sortie back in 2014, but his family set up this scholarship for one cadet a year to get a private pilot's license, and I attribute a lot of my ability to be here to some of the benefits of that scholarship, and then just the relationship I built with his family, learning about someone that gave the ultimate sacrifice, doing the right things for his nation, and then from there just went to pilot training. Was fortunate enough to get the F-15E Strike Eagle out of there, and then have spent 3 years with the Chiefs at Seymour Johnson. Did 2 deployments to the CENTCOM AOR, and then the last one most recently from April to November of 2024 with these 2 cats out there as well.
Yeah, I'll try not to double tap too much for my bio, but good afternoon. I'm Captain Noel Zamot. I go by Takeout, and basically nothing else to add from the bio. Graduated here 2018 out of CS18 ZAMP, Night Riders for Life. Found my way to Combat Systems Officer Training, Pensacola, Florida, and then I was selected, to fly the Strike Eagle in the Chiefs. Was my first operational squadron, so deployed. This past time is, what we all briefed, and you guys came out here to see with the aerial kill panels the past 2 days, and that's the big reason, I guess, why I'm sitting here today with these two professionals.
Same for me, along the same lines. Also graduated out of here 2021, RISE. For me, I was a fast poli-sci major, so it really set me up for the intel career just because studying and understanding the geopolitical aspects of a lot of the different countries and regions. For me, it was Indo-PACOM, so that really prepared me for the Middle East. So I did have to do some homework and figuring things out. And then for how I got to here specifically, I would say looking at like a young lieutenant, also getting that perspective to be able to provide that knowledge and insight to you. For some of you guys that may be out there in the same position as me, not really knowing and understanding that like, hey, this is it, this is real, you might be called to this as like a young lieutenant and being able to get out there and go do the job.
Thank you for your answers. So can you guys share a time when you had to push through some adversity, either personally or professionally, and what kept you going to get through that?
Yeah, I'll share a quick story from my experience, not necessarily direct adversity, but I think for us up here, coming from a fighter squadron, there's a very strong desire to do well in the eyes of your peers and your superiors and those that like look up to you and things like that. So anytime you slip up, make a mistake, sometimes that can get to your head a little bit. You think about it quite a bit. So I just remember on our first deployment, we hadn't really done much the whole time we were out there, and then I was fortunate enough to be in a position where I was one of the first people of that deployment that had the opportunity to drop some bombs, and it didn't go quite as well as you might hope. The first one didn't work how we had planned, large part as a result of myself and my crewmate at that time goofing some things up. Thankfully, we got a second chance a few minutes later, and that one worked out, but just thought about that for a long time. You kind of like sulk in your own shortcomings. You kind of think about that, but just realize everyone's going to make mistakes when you guys are young, and then be able to move on from that and go into the rest of that deployment and into a next deployment with the confidence that you can fall back on the training you get here, the training you get in ROTC, pilot training, and then prepping for deployments and things like that, and then trust yourself and what you've done, your abilities and things like that, and then just let it go from there.
For me, I wouldn't say it was a personal adversity, but about a year and a half after I graduated, one of my classmates, Second Lieutenant Travis Wilkie, in November of 2019, died in a T-38 crash. And that, at the time, I was still going through my training. That made the reality, the harsh reality of what we do as aviators, obviously really stand out to me in a way that I did not expect. I never thought. A year after graduating with this guy who, I'd gone through classes with, did CST with this guy who's a great dude, and passed away with no warning. One day I just got a phone call that he was involved in an accident, and that really caged my expectations for future aviation. I bring him with me everywhere I go. Wear his patch, wore it downrange on every sortie. So that adversity, the way that basically my whole class, honestly, from the academy and everybody else who I was going through training with, to include my UCT flight commander who's actually here today, we all kind of leaned on each other, and that was a great example of the community that you guys are going to enter into.
For me, I would say it's both a professional and probably personal example. So for me, I was a brand new lieutenant at Seymour Johnson dealing with training and then exercises. We had 7 exercises in a 13-month period. For reference, usually you don't have that many in 1 year. But I was just struggling to manage it all because we were working really long days in order to prepare for that. And I think what got me through it was knowing that I wasn't alone. So for me personally, relying on my teammates. So I had fellow airmen who were learning and doing things, and I had fellow CGOs, and knowing that I could talk to them about it and be like, hey, this sucks, but we're doing it together, and we're gonna get it done and get past it.
Thank you. So throughout your career, what qualities do you believe separates a good officer from a great one? And how can cadets start developing these traits now?
I guess I'll just keep the flow going down the line here, but I think the qualities of being a great officer that are going to pay off for you as young lieutenants is obviously it's dependent on your career field, and I'll speak a little, obviously more so to our career field, being aviators, but just being willing to put the time in and have the dedication to your craft early on, and not think that you've ever made it. You've never made it. There's always something else you can learn, something else you can get better at. So just be willing to put that time in, and then if you're that guy or gal that's always studying and performs well, that's really all people care about, is if they can rely on you as a teammate and trust that you're going to do your job so that they can do their job and not have to worry about you as well. I think is a premier quality for young air crew is what I can speak to.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything Board said, and just to echo that, you're going to leave here with a chip on your shoulder. It's what I did when I was a young academy grad, and you don't have all the answers, not even close. And it took me, the lessons, the strongest lessons that I learned as a young officer didn't come before 2018. It was after I was already commissioned, and I had to learn things the hard way because I made a lot of mistakes. Living by yourself as a second lieutenant for the first time is kind of scary, especially if you're just used to Mitch is always making your food for you. But it was, exactly what he's saying about you don't have all the answers. Humble yourself. Go out and find people. If you're not making yourself better, talking to somebody new, learning something new, maybe about a career field that you don't know about, or about some sort of academics or some other avenue to improve yourself. If you're not doing that every day, then you're doing something wrong.
Echoing those same lines, I would say getting to know your people. So for me, I do have airmen and whatnot under me, so it's really easy to just go talk to them and just get to know them as people and treat them as your teammates. I would say, if you are not a social person, maybe that now's the time to maybe step outside those bounds, because I'm sure they tell you guys, and they did tell us back then, is hey, you're not going to get through this place alone. The same does carry over with your job. You're not going to get through your job alone. Well, maybe these guys, because they're cool. But I would say, hey, rely on the people and try to get to know them, because you help each other out and you will get the job done that way.
Thank you. So how do you build trust and respect with your enlisted troops? I know it's a little different for the aviation community, but how do you still maintain that authority of your position while keeping it professional?
Do you want to start there?
Yes, I can go ahead and talk to this one a little bit more. So like I said before, I like to just talk and get to know my people. So what we do is we either try to go out, have lunch at least once a week, try to have sit downs and just talk about something that's not work related, because it can get really easy to just be hey, what's the latest intel for today? What do we need to get done? What's on the agenda for this week, for tomorrow, that we need to get accomplished? And a lot of the times, yeah, yes, that's good. You need to be concentrated on that, but you need a moment, or at least a time and space to step away from that. So we'll just talk about we have a whiteboard in our office, and we call it the top 5 board, and it's just something that we have for the week, and it's top 5 best movies, top 5 best ads that you guys watched as a kid, and it's just something just to be silly, to talk about and get to know your people, but still maintaining that boundary of yes, we can hang out, we can do things, but understanding at the end of the day, I will have to give you an order to do something in order for us to establish hey, this is our mission, we need to get snap and go do this, and that's okay, and then afterwards we can talk about hey, I didn't think that went well, or I didn't think that was good, and have that discussion back and forth, because again, you're a team and you will be in charge of those troops, of however many troops you guys end up being in charge of, but understanding it's a team dynamic and you are in charge of those people, and taking the lead with that.
I have a story for that as well, Tatiana, if we got a little while, but how many of you guys want to go fly, be a pilot? Any prior maintainers out there? Heck yeah. All right, I got an awesome story about a really awesome maintainer. So downrange, we're flying at night, come back. It turns out I lost my flashlight, right? You guys ever had an experience with some dumb air crew losing something in the jet? Yep, that was me. And losing stuff at night, no lights on, obviously, in combat and all that stuff. Might never find that thing again. So we land, it's cold, it's the fall in the desert. And I tell my pilot, who's a lieutenant colonel, I'm hey, sir, I lost my flashlight. He's all right, man, thanks for fessing up, whatever. So we go debrief real quick, and I tell the crew chief, I'm hey, dude, we lost this I lost this flashlight. It's somewhere in the jet. I can't find it. And he was like very calm. He's an engines dude. He was awesome. He brought out a boar snake. It was really cool. You guys know what I'm talking about. And he's like, don't worry, man. I'll find your flashlight. It's 40 degrees outside. Can't feel my hands, but it's all good. You know, sun's going to come up in 5 hours, and hopefully by then I'll have found your flashlight. And man, the maintenance officer was like, bro, you better go out there and help him. And I was like, oh, I know. I'm going right after my debrief. And it was, you know, this place that had instilled that in me. Not, you know, any other Wizzo, any other professional aviator would jump to do the same thing. I'm not special in that respect. But you might not be leading people directly. You might not be doing the awesome stuff that Dare is directly with enlisted, specifically like lower enlisted, straight out of, you know, whatever your pilot or rated pipeline is. But you're absolutely going to be interacting with them in some sort of capacity. And you can either be that dude that goes in on a night where it's really windy, 40 degrees, pitch black, and somebody else is looking for your belonging that you should have kept better positive control of, or you could go back out there, you know, and just, if you don't want to think about it as me, just put any other young captain in my shoes and be that person that goes out and helps on the flight line. And sure enough, morning came and the flashlight was just in the map case, wasn't even under the rudder pedals. Anyways.
Last thing I'll add to that, kind of along like same lines. It's incredibly easy. Specifically, I'll talk to like aircrew and maintainer interaction kind of out on the flight line. Their reaction as a young enlisted member who's taking care of your jet to you is really ones and zeros. It's, does this person care about me as a person? Do they know who I am? Or is this just another pilot that's here to take my jet for 2 hours and bring it back? And it's super basic, but if you can remember the first name of the person that's handing you the forms and giving you that jet, it instantly cues them into the fact that this is somebody that does care about me, they know something about me. And while this is a little embarrassing, it's kind of a tool I use myself, and specifically on like a deployment where the same 15, 20 crew chiefs are handing us the forms for the aircraft every single day in, day out. If you can remember that person's name, what I personally do is I have a note in my phone, and it's names of crew chiefs that I've met. It's like what their hometown is. If I've asked them that, it's like what their favorite sports team is, just to have some sort of like conversation starter with these guys when you get to the jet that day. Like, hey, dude, you watched the last Cavs game or whatever it is, and then just be able to build that rapport from there. That is night and day will be different for you than if you are an aviator that steps to that jet and you don't know that person's name, you never learn that person's name, and things like that. So just taking those small steps, it only takes a few minutes out of your day to learn those things, and it means a whole lot to them, and then it's also just going to make you better as a team.
So my final question is, what was the biggest challenge transitioning from a cadet to an officer, and how did you overcome it, especially with Captain Liquori? I know you come from ROTC, so you could also speak upon that too, along with our academy grads.
Yeah, ROTC-wise, it's a little different, obviously, than it is from coming from the academy. I spent maybe like 5 to 7 hours a week doing what you guys do. You guys do it 24/7, so props to you guys for putting up with it and continuing to put the work into it. For me, I came from an Air Force family, so I was pretty familiar with the active duty way of life just from seeing my dad go through it and just following along throughout my childhood as well. So the transition, I wouldn't say was necessarily too hard. I think specifically for like coming from ROTC into a pilot training environment, it's really just you, instead of having like 6 classes that you guys go to throughout the week, you now have 1 class and it's 10 hours a day and it's airplanes. So you're learning airplanes, you're learning weather, and that's your sole focus. But the studying skills you guys learn here and the interpersonal skills that you learn working with teammates, those will all apply exactly the same as they do here. So make sure you build a solid foundation here and then you guys will be fine.
Yeah, I really like that thought of, you know, you have 1 class and it's your whole job is to be a student aviator or to be a student, maintenance officer or whatever tech school, intel officer that you're going to. Here at the academy, you walk back across the TISA, obviously I'm a grad, so I know how it went. you get your dinner at Mitch's or whatever, you go back to your room, go to EI, do whatever you got to do, or if you're playing a sport or something, you go down there, but you're never actually removed from work unless maybe one day a week you go to your sponsor parents or you go skiing or something like that. So it's just always, like we like to say, it's just always pushed up. It's push it up all the time. So when you're a lieutenant, it's not going to be like that, and you're going to have to figure out how to maximize that basically off time and how to compartmentalize, like, all right, I need to be on for work right now, and I need to manage my time appropriately afterwards, because nobody's going to give me EI. There's not going to be any nice teachers hanging around afterwards. You're going to have to go look for that yourself. You're going to have to go study, get in the vault, get in the sims or whatever if you're doing UPT, and that's going to completely be on you. So good habit patterns that you make here and being able to compartmentalize, like, hey man, this is time to work now and time to relax later, and knowing the delineation between that is going to be extremely important.
Yeah, definitely piggybacking off of that. For me, I think it was still the time management aspect. One of the biggest things was having to buy my own food and figure out like what I'm gonna eat for dinner that day. After having like a whole day of being in the vault and studying, you're like, oh crap, I didn't buy pasta or I didn't buy this, and having to figure out like, hey, you have to figure out your own meals. You have to figure out like what time you have to study, what time you have to get up, because your days aren't always going to be like as structured as they are now, where you have to like get up, go to class, go to like morning formation, go to noon formation. Like you'll have to figure out like, I need this time from this time to study, or I need to go into work early to get this done, so then I can go relax for the rest of the weekend.
Is there any advice you would give to the audience right now about future life, things you wish you did better, or anything? You can go ahead and say something.
I'll go first while Boards is thinking. This is a little maybe outside the scope of what I've talked to so far at this symposium, but I've talked to a ton of people who have basically chosen to do the language minor here. Is there anybody who is pursuing that in the audience, doing the language minor? Couple? Heck yeah, awesome. Love to see it. So in my humble opinion, I think that learning at least one foreign language is going to open so many doors for you. I know that's kind of a slight tangent to the meat of this discussion, but this place has outstanding resources. This place meaning the academy. Outstanding resources for you, cadets, preppies. If you guys want to pursue something like that, like it's free here to get a language minor to apply yourself. You're gonna have awesome travel opportunities, and that's honestly, as an officer in the most powerful Air Force that has ever existed, like it is incumbent upon you to better yourself in a way like that, and to be able to make joint connections basically with our other partners around the world and all our allies. It's really gonna open a lot of doors.
Only thing I would say, like advice for you guys right now, is just trust the institution that you're a part of. It's been here for, you probably know better than I do, close to 100 years maybe. And then, so they know what they're doing. I know sometimes it may seem like you may not understand why they're telling you to do certain things, but there's usually a good reason behind it. And also, with that in mind, trust that you have the ability to make a change just amongst your peers or amongst the institution as well. If you're able to properly communicate your thoughts and ideas to the appropriate people, and then make this place a better place, make your pilot training environment a better place, or your maintenance training, tech school, whatever it is, whatever career you go into, trust that it's there and know that you're gonna get something out of it, but also be there to make it better.
And then lastly, just to close it out, because I know we're getting close to our time, I would say to cherish and keep those connections. I can't tell you the amount of times even just this week, I've reached out to like my fellow grads and said like, hey, let's catch up, let's go get dinner, let's see like what you're up to. And I found out like that my fellow classmate, he has a friend who's also going to be PCSing to my next base, so I already have like someone that I know there. So I'd say like definitely embrace the time that you have with your roommates, because you're not going to really be able to like go down the hall once you're graduated and be able to see your friends as easily as you did back when you were in this time.
Thank you for all your responses. I'm sure the audience really enjoyed it as well.
Thank you.
Panelists, Cadet Ellison, thank you very much for your discussion today. At this time, I would like to open up the floor for questions. Attendees can ask questions at the microphones positioned to the side of the audience. I'm actually going to go ahead and kick it off with one of my own questions for Captain Liquori. Sir, over the last couple of days, I've noticed a lot of people, when you're introducing yourself and you say, hey, I commissioned through ROTC, they'll all say, nice, that's a really good choice. which is something easy for cadets to say. Grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. But I've also seen you, as we're going around, seeing things that you really didn't have exposure to or the opportunity to experience being in ROTC. So what are some things that you think that cadets who are sitting here in the audience today should take more advantage of while they're here?
Great question. Thanks for bringing that up, and hopefully I don't get myself in trouble answering this here at the Academy. But I am more than proud of my background coming from ROTC. I think I saw a couple ROTC ranks in here as well. You should be as well, and recognize that you're not getting shortchanged because you're not coming to the Academy. Once you guys graduate and you put on second lieutenant bars, nobody gives a damn where you came from. So the leader you are is the leader you are, whether or not you came from here or ROTC. That being said, the folks that are here going to the prep school or the Academy, like I said a minute ago, trust that you are getting a world-class education. And by the way, it's free, so you can't complain about that. Trust me, I know a lot of people in the real world with hundreds of thousands of dollars of student debt and a non-guaranteed salary when they leave their university. So that should be something that hopefully is a positive for you. But as Dustin was saying, I think you guys have some phenomenal opportunities here. The two that we stopped by that I was thoroughly impressed by and was like, damn, I wish I had this when I was a cadet, were both the counter UAS lab that you guys are working on some real world problems with drones and things like that, and then the Institute of Future Conflict as well. Some of the professionals in that office are 100% on the right track, and if you can associate yourself with them, get into some of those classes, you'll be well on the path to success for a future career that isn't necessarily focused on what we've been doing for the last 20 years, but is more focused on what we will have to do as a Air Force in the next 5 years, 10 years, and things like that. So if you can get yourself into some of those opportunities, highly, highly encourage it.
Speaking of ROTC cadets.
Cadet Third Class Siefkin, Det 605. Would you please, all of you, talk about your mental preparation as you go through your 6-month cycles running up to deployment? How does that mind shift change? How does your mental state shift from going through those training cycles to then executing when you're abroad?
It's a great question. It's I'll give you as short an answer as I can, but basically, we're going to spin up to go downrange. We're going to train to what the threats are and what we expect to do. Obviously, we're always keeping in mind the high-end threat. We're always training to that, as the peer Air Force. But going downrange before we do that, like CENTCOM, for example, is where we went. So we spun up, studied the tactics, got in the vault, studied that entire AOR and all the other players that were there with the help of our fantastic intel team. That was basically like how the work side of it worked, is that we were now, the whole 10-hour day that Boards is talking about, that's your whole job, learning stuff, being a student. Our 10, 12, 14-hour day now is being a student of how to wage war, at the unit level as war fighters, the whole spirit of this symposium. That's what we did every day, preparing on the work side. On the family side, like you got to get your, your personal life has to be in order before you go downrange. That's like whatever the mantra is, mission first. I always get that mixed up. Your personal life always should come first. And so if, you need to take care of your family, absolutely 6-7 months is a long time to be gone. One day you guys are going to be in those shoes if you haven't already, if you're not a prior or something like that. And so that, you lean on each other in your squadron, any other sort of community that you make, but absolutely that is probably more important than learning the little nitty-gritty tactics, is ensuring that your home life, your personal life, and all your relationships are squared away before you go downrange.
I would say from the intel side, along the same lines of preparing, those exercises did prepare us. So like whenever we heard the alarms going off, we knew instantly like, hey, get in gear. That is like the time to shine. Like this is your moment that you've been preparing for. So there are a bunch of things that your unit will get you set up for. So the practice like you play. And then echoing the home life thing, so we made sure that like everything was set up. We had someone to look over our house, someone to look over our pets and everything, just to make sure that is squared away, so that I knew everything was getting taken care of home, so that I can take care of myself at work.
I don't have too much to add. I think they hit it on the head.
Thank you.
I'm Cadet Candidate Aaron Stewart, Charlie Squadron from the prep school. I just wanted to know, what was your favorite day at the academy and ROTC that y'all had?
I would say graduation day was my favorite. For me personally, it was just seeing the Thunderbirds flying over, and you feel that like release of like adrenaline, and you're like, this is it. This made it worth it, and knowing that like you've made it this far and that you're ready for the real world. That was my favorite day.
Well, I can't say graduation, but I can say ring dance because her class too soon, maybe, but she didn't have a ring dance. Yeah, boo COVID. But anyways, ring dance. Ring dance was awesome, and ring dance was the first time at this place. You know, this might sound like a cheap answer, but like you're not the main character at the academy. You're just another cadet. You know, you're 29, right? That's the number on your chest, and I was 18. Whatever. So anyways, ring dance is not like that. You get to be a main character for one day. You get to go get your awesome ring and feel like you're the man for a couple hours, go drive out to the mountains and do whatever you want and wear your awesome penguin suit. And it was, that was fun. I have really good memories from ring dance.
Academy-wise, or sorry, ROTC, I'm not an Academy grad. I think my favorite day was probably, it might sound dorky, but I had a couple cadets that were 1 year behind me in my ROTC program. I was the big nerd that may have been in charge of the cadet wing at one point, and then those cadets that were 1 year behind me and I had like become fantastic friends with, trained them for everything leading up to their like field training and things like that. I hope that they viewed me as a mentor, but passing off the cadet wing to those guys and just being like, I hope they learned something from me, and like whatever small leadership value you can add as a cadet, it's probably bigger than you think. And then watching them go on and like do great things with the rest of the cadets and things like that. That was a rewarding experience, and one of those cadets is actually now in our sister squadron, is also a Strike Eagle pilot. So me and that guy have been friends for a very long time, and it's been rewarding to kind of just like be along the same path in our careers.
Thank you.
My name is Oliver Harmon. I am a civilian, and my question was, as someone who's going into college for political science, what is the pipeline from a political science degree to an intel officer?
So for me, it was like all the classes preparing you for that through the political science aspect side of things. So a lot of those classes are politically science like intensive. So like you're familiar with like whatever region you concentrated on, getting familiar with that. And then the tech school pipeline is about 6 months. It might be 5 months now. They changed it slightly. So that's also politically science like intensive, and getting familiar with not only like public speaking and presenting information to someone, but also being familiar with the relationships and dynamics of countries from a military perspective as well.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Cadet First Class Adrian Weaver from Squad 2. I just wanted to ask, like, I know me and like the other firsties in the room, we're going to be leaving here in a few months and going to our first units or our first teams. And so, like, what's the first thing that you do when you get to these teams and these units to, like, start building these connections that are really valuable to you later?
I'll go first. I would say, in my opinion, that kind of the stuff that we've kind of hit on just throughout this panel about like, hey, go out and make community and meet those other people, learn everybody's names in the squadron as fast as you can. Like that's going to apply from the first day that you spend, you know, wearing the gold bar to the day that you hang it up. So it's going to apply the whole time. But great question. Your first time that you spend in your first unit is going to be awesome. So soak it all in. Yeah, you're going to be making popcorn and coffee every single day or whatever, you know, if they still make you guys do that or whatever. But it's going to be great, and you're going to get to, you know, go talk to the front desk lady who, you know, is a civilian. Go talk to every single enlisted person that you meet that you can. You know, don't annoy them, but go learn everything. Don't be the lieutenant that, you know, goes back to your room and then hides there or whatever. Like make all these connections, and I promise you that's gonna, one, help you be a better officer, and then everyone's gonna, you know, just like Board said, they're gonna want to fly with you. They're gonna want to do the job with you.
So it's like okay to like just walk in and they're like and just start talking to people, like they're fine with that.
Yes.
I don't think
Just
if somebody's if somebody has an issue with a friendly face or a smile or somebody introducing themselves for the first time, then they're probably the problem and you're
Fair
not,
enough.
you know?
Don't be afraid to go do that. Thank you.
How you doing? I'm C3C Logan Panzik from Squadron 17. Just came in with a quick question. For looking at your time in college or even just your hobbies, what extracurriculars did you do, or maybe non-military related activities that you think might have contributed to your military success later down the line in just your personal development?
I think the obvious answer, easy one, is do things that are going to keep you in good shape. The Air Force in our country needs warfighters that are in shape and capable of doing hard things physically and mentally. So for me, it's just rock climbing, hiking, playing hockey, doing anything along those lines, being active. That's all fun. I'm not doing it because it's going to keep me in good shape for being an Air Force officer or anything, but it's a good byproduct. So enjoy yourself and do things like that that are going to have those good byproducts.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of already hit on like the foreign language type stuff. That was like really what I was involved in a lot heavily at the academy. Like I was always doing the academy visits and whatnot, and that was awesome outreach. Got to meet people from a dozen different countries, and I still have some of those contacts. Like great experience there. Along with what Boards was saying, like me personally, I love to go mountain biking with my sponsor family, and just do other stuff in the Rockies, which, it's not as good mountain biking on the East Coast. But yeah, absolutely. Getting in the gym. You got a bunch of awesome, like really cool outdoor activities to do here specifically as cadets, and yeah, take advantage of it.
I guess piggybacking off of that, yes, the athletic side of things, I would just say for me personally, to keep me mentally sane, I like video games. So if you guys are able to, just take like a moment to, sometimes you won't feel like socializing or like, hey, your social battery is just like dead. So for me, that does happen. And then I'll just take a moment, go relax on my own, go watch a movie on my own, go do something like that, just to like mentally relax.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'll ask you a question. Can you think of, you're a firstie, can you think of like a leader that you really look up to here? Can you think of a leader that you really would not want to emulate when you grow up here? Yeah, so there's a reason that you're exposed to every single other person in this room and on this campus, is because all of those people have a small hand in molding you, and I think that specifically, like I agree with what Board said, nobody cares where you graduated, nobody cares if you have jump wings when you leave the academy or whatever, like everybody's just a lieutenant. But one of the huge advantages of this place, on top of all the like cool airmanship programs we have, like the great events like this, that are put on for you as a cadet. This is probably your fourth one. So stuff like that is great, but that constant, like every single one of your teachers, or probably at least half of your teachers have active duty experience, and they're not just teaching you math, they're teaching you like how to be a good officer at the same time, which is a really, really valuable aspect of this place that I didn't fully appreciate until after I left.
I would definitely echo that sentiment, and just piggybacking with the community and the experience that you get a broad range of people who come here to teach you, whether it's civilian side or military side, and being able to have those opportunities to pick their brains, because a lot of the times you're not running into lieutenant colonels and full bird colonels and being able to ask them about their lives the way that you guys have that opportunity here.
Bill Eckert, class of 1968. I actually didn't appreciate it as a cadet, and some of the cadets here might find it interesting when you talk about athletic participation at the academy. Would you pilots comment on the requirements to be in good shape to fly a fighter and why it's important?
Definitely. In terms of flying fighter jets, the primary reason, like, you got to be in good shape is obviously the G's and having some muscular strength, primarily lower body abdomen, to strain those muscles and keep the blood up in your head while you're flying fighters, to keep yourself conscious, obviously. Just so general cardiovascular strength is going to be incredibly valuable there. There's not necessarily like a specific fighter aircrew test of that. It's just going to be like, you'll recognize it if you're not cutting it early on. I remember my first sortie in the T6. We started pulling some G's, and my body just had no idea what was happening. Just complete cold sweats and like throwing up right and left. But if you are more physically fit, I think you'll realize that'll go away a little quicker than those that are struggling or haven't necessarily taken as good of care for themselves in the months or years leading up to that. So that's definitely valuable, specific to fighter aircrew.
The only thing I'd add on to that, great question, sir, is just the fact that you are doing this like tough, demanding exercise. You're pushing yourself to be better down in the cadet gym or the IC gym or wherever you're at. Like the added effect of that is also it's going to make you mentally tough. So, I mean, I really wish we could have played some more of our comm from the cockpit about like, you know, when we are in a tense situation, like shooting down a drone, like it sounded like we were running a marathon just because we're breathing so hard because we're just so hyper focused, and there's a ton of stressors, people yelling in your ear. You're, you know, barely a couple thousand feet off the ground in the pitch black of night. And you have to be mentally tough to do something like that. And obviously, you know, cardiovascular strength to be breathing as hard as we were. But all of that stuff it's all connected. Like you have to be mentally tough, and you have to absolutely be in good physical shape.
Dustin, you got any more hip pocket questions? Or you just want to start telling stories, brother?
I think I'm good, sir. Thank you. All right, no more questions. Last call. You can always come up after the panel and ask our panelists questions if you don't want to do it in a group environment or you think of something later. They're great to talk to, and they have a lot of insight, so highly recommend. Panelists, on behalf of the U.S. Air Force Academy and the National Character and Leadership Symposium, we'd like to thank you for joining us today with these commemorative coins. This concludes our speaker session. We'd like to take a moment to invite you to rate this session in the NCLS app. We also invite you to visit our 360 photo booth on the south side of the Arnold Hall foyer to provide feedback on your NCLS experience. Thank you, and have a great afternoon.